All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live here at Autumn Oaks. It's a busy building today, isn't it, Steve?
Man, I tell you what, I told Alan Gingrich here with UKC last night when I walked in about draw out time, and there was a multitude of
Oh,
human
man.
life forms in this room. I mean, it was jammed to
It
the
was. I
rafters.
know it was about 70 degrees in here when I walked out, and when I walked in, there were about 400 people in here, and it was about 90 in
Oh,
here.
I guarantee you. You know, I think this year, Josh, that the temperature is the hottest
Yeah.
I ever saw it here
Yep.
in Richmond.
Today is the
Yeah.
first day below 95, 96 degrees right now, feels like. We got a crowd all around us.
Oh
As you
yeah,
know.
I
There's-
forgot the
I'm so
cameras
used to
on.
talk. I'm so
I
used to
had-
talking to coon hunters during the live
Oh
feed.
well, I was recording over there a while ago with Sid Underwood from Texas. He and I go way back. He was a field rep for UKC and all that. Texas historian. I mean, and everybody was going by. Strickland walked by and holler at him. And all, and that. But one of the guys, Ben Sheets, that's here doing some media stuff. He went out with John last night. I don't think he had a very good hunt.
Yeah, no, I just ate lunch with John, and he said it was not the best cat.
No, that's what
by
he
any
said.
means.
But it's been a good crowd here. I don't know, people ask me how is this compared to that year or this year, and I don't know. It just seems like I know there was a time on Saturday when you would walk down this main street down here toward the vendor barn, and it was almost elbow to elbow. Don't know that it's getting that kind of crowd, but it seems like as far as campers and all, of course, a lot of the boys that like to hunt the Labor Day Classic down the road are up here during the day, checking out the vendors. All that stuff. But have you been down there at all this weekend?
I have not been to the Labor Day Classic. This is my 12th, I think, Autumn Oaks, 10th or 12th, something like that. I've been coming out here quite a while, but as you know, I sold the squallers for a long time.
Oh yeah.
And I would sit out here and I'd sell squallers, and I'd bust out of here 4 or 5 o'clock, and I'd drive down and I'd hunt the Labor Day or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, the Labor Day Classic, they've had a pretty good turnout this year. I think I-70 closing last night was a big deal.
Oh,
a lot of people were trying to get from here down there and couldn't.
Yeah.
But the last year I hunted the Labor Day Classic, there were over 140 dogs there, if I remember right.
Well, of course, I switched teams back there in the 90s, later 96, I think was the year I went to PKC. And of course, then started going to the Labor Day Classic. I hadn't been. It was at North Vernon there at the little fairgrounds. And we had some pretty good entries back in those days.
I know the last year they had it at Greensburg that I remember. I take that back, but I hunted it 3 years ago. I think I took Bella down there and hunted her, and there were like 28 entries on Wednesday night.
Oh,
and it had changed so much. And, it's the same struggle a lot of kennel clubs have, guides, judges, spots.
Well, you can't underestimate having good leadership in these areas. That Bobby Wilson that was down there at North Vernon, that area, he might have been from DuPont. But I know that they moved it down there, and no criticism to Roger.
Luke Simpson said it's about as miserable weather-wise in DuPont as it is up here. So.
But, when we brought Autumn Oaks here to Richmond, right away, you got to put this network of guides together if you're going to hunt these 300 or 400 dogs a night. And, it wasn't really exciting for a guy to find out that he was drawing DuPont.
Right.
Because it's a pretty good ways down there, and it's probably not the flat big cornfield country that a lot of Indiana is. Of course, we had the same thing at PKC years ago with the World Hunting Aurora.
Right.
I had 2 years of my Super Stakes eligibility back then. I drew Camden, Tennessee. Well, nobody wanted to go to Camden.
That's a fact.
Billy Bell and Avery, they called every coon.
Yep, that's right.
And in fact, I hunted with both those guys over the years down there. But no, it's you got, the leadership that can inspire the guys to get out, and guide a cast.
Yeah.
And it's
People don't understand the effort it takes to put, and I'm so impressed with large events like this. You look at the Winter Classic a few years ago, had over 700 dogs or something like that in it. And they're putting over 500 dogs in the woods here last night. The slam hunts have been, one was almost 100, the other two were over 120, 30. One was almost 150.
Exactly.
It is hard to put that many dogs in the woods, keep them out of trouble, put them in good hunting, all that stuff, and do it. And UKC does a fantastic job.
They really, really do.
Yeah.
And I remember, back in the days, I was with UKC when we went to the zone system for the World Hunt.
Yeah.
Because we had a World Hunt in 1986, the year that the famous Pac-Man dog won it. And it was at Marion, Indiana, up the road. And we had, at that time, the World Hunt was building. When I went to UKC, I'm not trying to impress anybody with the numbers, but we started out with around 100 entries. That's what we had to World Hunt. We were knocking on the door of 300 entries, but we started to hunt on Wednesday night, and we hunted every dog we had on Wednesday night. Now, here was the crazy thing. We had 2 non-hunting judges on every cast.
Yes.
And so on Wednesday night, we had some dogs that didn't even get turned loose till 2 o'clock in the morning. I said, this is crazy. We can't do this anymore. If we're going to grow this thing, and that's when we did the zone thing, And of course, PKC did I think a good move. That was part of your idea.
I'm going to take all the credit for that. Now, Roger Dale says I don't get all the credit. It was partially his idea.
Yeah, well, Roger Dale stole a lot of my ideas when I left. No, we love Roger.
We do. Roger's a good man. We love him to death. He gives me just as hard a time as I do him. I can promise you that.
That's right.
But I was talking to Wade. I'd stopped down the office. I'd done a podcast with Wade here a while back, and he was talking in '91 when he got in the finals of the ACA World with Jill.
Okay.
And to get in the top 16, I think they sent 2 non-hunting judges with a dog by itself. And the top scores, the top 16 or top 4 or top 8. I can't remember
Why would you need 2 judges with 1 dog?
I have no idea. But
Keep the judges honest.
Yes. But Wade said he had 2 judges, and he turned Jill loose, and she banged around a little bit. They called timeout. They found a new spot. He said it was kind of a dead spot, and she had like an hour left, and she managed to score 900 in that hour and get her in. But that was so wild to me, thinking that they would have every single dog hunt by itself for the full 2 hours and have 2 non-hunting judges for every dog. And that just could not be done today.
There's been an evolution over the years, and I look back over it and I said, well, why do we do that? And some of these things, like you with this deal with PKC, a lot of those things were things that I worked out,
Right.
And I had good field reps as a sounding board, and I'd run these things. They were good coon hunters. But, it's been an evolution for sure. And I think, one of the things that they've done here at this hunt is this Grand 16.
Yeah.
That's a lot better than the way we did it.
I agree.
We just hunted all the Grand Night champions, and if you were to high score your breed, then your score went up against the other 5 breeds. At that time, there was only 6.
Yeah.
And then you were the national grand.
Yeah.
There was no runoff, no hunt off.
Right.
We had right there in the States to the left over here.
Yeah.
One morning, we're getting ready to call out on Sunday morning all the winners. We got all those beautiful trophies as tall as I am and all that. And we find out that our winner has hunted down here in the city park where no hunting is allowed. And we're ready to call all the winners. And we had a low, as they say, come to Jesus meeting and said, no, we're not going to do it. We're going to solve this right now. Did you hunt the park? Oh, yeah. We scratched him.
Yep.
put in a Walker dog in.
Yep.
It was a black dog, but those
Ain't that something?
crazy. I think. How do you think you would get rid of that?
When I think of the history
Buy
of,
with that.
yeah,
I mean.
if the history of not only UKC but of just this hunt in particular, and on a side note, I was walking around earlier today, and John Monroe's here.
Oh yeah,
I got to say hi to John.
John's
You get to see some of these people that are here and have been here for decades,
yeah.
and you get a good mix of those type of guys. And now I look here, and I was just sitting here yesterday with Dual Murphy and Michael Ward. Now,
Yeah.
Dual's an Autumn Oaks. He won Autumn Oaks, I think, in 17 or 18.
Oh, did he?
Something like that. Yeah, he won it with Jason Smith's River Dog.
Well, oh, okay.
Yeah,
I just
when River
wondered
won
if it was Melvin.
But this was Michael Ward's first Autumn Oaks.
Really?
And I'm thinking it's a great blend, especially with UKC bringing these slam hunts in and stuff like that.
Well, we always did have, excuse me, Josh, but we always did have that element of guys that were actually in this part of the country to hunt at the Labor Day Classic.
Right.
But they would always come up here and
Right.
do the crowd
Do the
thing
walking
and the
around,
vendor,
yes.
and that stuff, But
It's such a state fair atmosphere, kind of here, where you don't, and that's one thing I do like. And I'm not, you know me, I love the Professional Kennel Club and Pro Sport and UKC. I love them all, but they're also different. UKC has that camaraderie and fellowship. And, guys, even at a small UKC hunt, they're going to show up a little early. At PKC, it's a soft deadline. They kind of roll in at the later hours. Bobby Burden, if you can get him there by dark, we're all excited, And so it's just different. And I think
you can believe that.
Yes, you can believe that. That's right. And RC Cola, he'll be there about dark. But I think we need that difference, because that way it seems like there's something for everybody.
There's an old saying, and you've heard it. I know variety's the spice of life, and to have the different kinds. And, I learned that right away when I left UKC. I've been a UKC man all my life. And when Larry Meeks hired me, I told him, I said, Larry, I don't know a thing. I said, I had a dog named Bronco that I felt when I saw that money in those $16 pro hunts they had there. I said, I believe I could have played that game and really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I didn't have, young, married, child, all that stuff. I just didn't have the resources or the time to do it. But I knew nothing about PKC. I laugh, tell people, first thing I found out about PKC, those guys drive some nice trucks. And then
it's still the case today.
But they would drift in there before the deadline, but the other things I found about PKC, and I've said this before, probably doesn't bear repeating, but I loved the attitude of the PKC hunters back in that day. And I don't know how it is now because I haven't been to a hunt in a long time.
Right.
But the guys walk in the center. How'd you do, Josh?
Yep.
Got beat?
Yep.
Go get a cup of coffee.
Yep.
How'd you do, John? I got lucky.
Yeah.
Get a cup of coffee. There was no big, long story. I struck for this and he struck for that. And we sit there for 30 minutes listening about how you got.
Yep. And it is still the same case today. If I want to actually know how a cast went, I got to do like I did with John today. We got to go down, we sit down, we eat lunch. And literally, we didn't even talk about the cast that way. And I'm the same way. I got beat Tuesday night. They asked me what happened. And I got beat. Dog treated Coon. I had a circle. Done deal. And but here, if I run into a random person, I say, "How'd you do last night?" I better have 10 or 15
they're
minutes.
They're going to give you the whole play.
That's right. I better have 10
play
or 15
by play.
Right.
And that was the thing when I was with UKC, especially Saturday after the Friday night hunt. Saturday, you could believe I would be standing there in front of that desk, and I'd feel like I had 10 penny spikes driven up through my heel. My feet would be hurting so bad from standing on this concrete listening to seeing, I should have this, I will have this,
Then that's talk for the club, or that's talk for me and Jed would stay together or something like that. And that was usually talk when we got back to our Airbnb or our hotel or something like that. But here, and I do enjoy it because I do like listening to some people's stories and telling me how the cast went and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Every now and then, just like you, I've been here all day.
Oh,
just a simple "I got beat" would be fine.
Well, that'll work. That'll work. the old saying, one of the employers I had years ago as a kid said, "Don't tell me about the labor. I just want to see the baby."
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And speaking of that, I see Bearpin Fever out here.
Bearpin Fever, he's been a fun guy.
Yeah.
I
Tell us
wish
about that dog.
if my buddy Mark was probably Michael Ward and Bill Murphy's age,
Yeah.
he'd probably be making some noise with that
Right.
dog. And I know that's easy to say, but he's just been he's almost a phenom. He's not even 3 years old yet.
Yeah.
He's just
No, I knew he
two
was
and a
still a young
half.
dog.
And he's just been, but Mark had some goals that I personally wouldn't have had. Is to finishing the Grand Water,
Right.
Grand Field, but he's just a dog that wants to do anything you want him
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
And you would think a dog like that'd probably be real trashy and everything. He's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
It just seems to. I know he didn't get in a really habit of it, but he treated a possum or two.
Yeah.
And Mark never had to get on him rough. He
Yeah.
just talked rough to him.
Yeah.
And now, the other night, he decided a bad night, hunted hard and didn't get after anything. And he treated possum. As soon as Mark started walking in, he dropped that head and he was
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah. New
You know?
better. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Smart.
but he's been a really nice young dog. His strengths have been he hunts good. I don't know how he would do up here because he's not used to this flat cornfield country at all.
Yeah.
He'd have to be hunted up here a little bit, I think. But he'll definitely go looking. But whether he knows how to run the edges and do what you got to do up here, I don't know. But I know in the hills and mountains down there where he hunts, he's tough. And he has a coon.
Yeah. And I talked to it may have been one of the Dunlaps or somebody, and the guys that I hung out with.
Oh, yeah.
They're not going to brag on a dog. Their
No,
own
no.
dog, somebody
No,
else's.
no.
The best you can usually get out of them is that's a good dog or I don't like that dog.
Yeah.
That's usually about all you're getting. And I think it may have been one of the Dunlaps or somebody that had drawn him and said, that dog hunts hard.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the plots, the English, the blue ticks, I think country and talent, very talented dogs, but I think that extra gear and that extra motor is kind of what holds them back the majority of the time. And to see that he has it, that's impressive to everybody.
Yeah, he's always hunted really well.
Yes.
But in the mountains there, and it's probably what you want really, because a lot of that area doesn't have access to roads.
Right.
He'll get out there and hunt 1,000, something like that. If nothing's moving, he'll make a big swing around, and he'll eventually kind of work back towards you. But hunts good. In a crowd, he's not going to be first strike dog. He kind of budgets his mouth, so to speak. But he does get a good number of first strikes because he gets out and gets away from everything. Yeah. And if they're not doing anything, but he's not he doesn't cover very.
I've always said a quick, honest strike dog is better at getting 100 strike than all the battles.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about that minute. You don't have to worry about anything. If they'll hustle out there and get struck honest, especially under the minute where you can strike them quick as soon as they bark, those dogs are hard to get a strike on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, with Fever, and like you say, I don't want to be the last one to brag on him. Mark would be the guy you need to talk to because he knows that dog inside and out. But the thing about Fever is he's always wanted to be by himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been split treeing since he was a puppy.
Yeah.
And with some pretty good dogs, and they might be in a pine or a big leafy tree, and Mark doesn't have a thermal. I keep saying we got to buy a thermal, but you're going to find a coon on the Fever's tree when he does that, So that's been his thing, but he's still young. He's just 2.5. What you travel a lot faster circuit than I do anymore. These dogs out there, I've been paying a lot of attention to their age, but about what age do the dogs really seeming to shine? Does it matter?
And a lot of times it depends on males versus females in the line of dogs. It seems like those males are peaking between 2 and 3. And the ones that are 5 or 6 years old and that are still maintaining and still winning at a high level are really rare. And the females are 3 to 5, 5 to 7. You'll see some females show up late in their careers that have really shined, But a lot of it has to do with how hard they're pushing them, where they're taking them. The male has so much more to deal with. They have all them hormones, all that testosterone. They're either wanting to fight or follow or something like that.
That was the thing, to interrupt you a little bit with Fever, is, we live bred him 3 times there in a pretty short period of time.
Right.
And it hasn't seemed to affect him at all.
I've seen very few dogs that did. Trader was one that could breed a female at 5 o'clock and be the same at 7 as he would have been if he never smelled her. There's been a few, but you think of dogs like Shifter. He fell off whenever they started live breeding him. Big Countries, John will tell you the same thing. When they started live breeding him, he fell off a little bit. But there has been a few, and those are, dogs just like I do, Steve. Those dogs that are super focused about tree and coons, they don't care.
They're in the zone.
They are. When you unsnap that lead, they want to tree coons. That's all they're thinking about. And those are the special ones, whether male, female, or whatever.
Absolutely. I remember reading an ad years ago with Dr. Jimmy Jackson. He was from my dad's hometown of Dixon, Tennessee. He bought House's Bally from Joe House, who Bally won the ACA World Hunt, paid a big price for him then, probably 5, maybe 10. I don't think it was 10, probably 5 grand. And he talked about Bally. He said Bally is this and thus and so, but there's one thing that Bally likes better than coon hunting, and he's talking about the females. He was.
Well, I've had dogs that fall in love. Dollar was real bad about it, and he wasn't.
And they'll just follow a female around.
They will just be right up, and then they don't have to be in heat sometimes. No. They don't have to be smelling. They fall in love, and they're stud dogs.
Last year in Arkansas, we were out there pleasure hunting White River, and this old boy that we hunt, this local guy, he's got a little black and tan female, and she'll tree every coon in the woods, but she won't hunt a leg. She won't hunt outside this building. But she's a coon tree. Right. Well, we cut loose that one night, and it was her and Fever, and went 70 yards or so, and all of them, she just stopped. And I'm not hearing anything. I don't hear him fooling a hole, and he's not much. I think he's scratching the armadillo hole a little bit, but he won't bark at him. But anyway, we get down there, and they're knotted up. And I said, John, is your dog in heat? And he said, no, I don't think so.
She is.
But she didn't have any pups. And that was the first time he was bred, it was live bred. And I said, this is going to mess him up big time. But,
especially being in the woods, you worry about it.
I don't know. He doesn't walk on water and he doesn't talk on TV yet, but he's been a lot of fun. He's been good for an old guy like me, because I sit back and watch Mark. I got one of those LTE.
Oh, yeah, isn't that nice?
I sit there at 600 miles away
and watch your dog
and watch the dog. That's kind of fun.
When you think about breeding them younger males, Jason Himes comes to mind right now with Trigger. Trigger wins nationals. Trigger's been on this hot streak, and I remember interviewing him. I'm live streaming them finals and nationals, and that's a pretty young dog too. I think he was just 3. And I said, Jason, what's your plans on Trigger in the future? He goes, we're going to breed him right away. And so that's a decision every handler owner has to make, because just as well as I do, every time we unsnap these dogs, they're in danger. If you want pups out of that dog, go ahead and do that, but you got to do it within mind that it may affect their hunting down the road, and it may not.
Well, I'm lucky to have Mark Miller. He's a great partner, and we talk about these things, and we don't always agree on things. See, I was all about let's just freeze Fever and let's don't live breed him at all until we're all done with him, And he said, no. He had a dog called Hardwood Dreamer, a Walker stud dog, and he bred several females with me. He said, I always bred Dreamer. It didn't hurt him any.
Well, you think of a dog like Bone Collector.
Oh, yeah.
Bone Collector got in the finals of the UKC World Hunt, I think, when he was 8. And at that time, I bet that dog had close to 1,000 pups on the ground.
What about JR dragging out Willie?
That's right.
Last night, wasn't it?
That's right.
I said, what are you doing? My God, that's a gold mine right there. You're turning loose.
But it's just sometimes Shy was talking about if it was cooler, he would have turned Shackley.
Really?
He said he would have hunted Shackley.
Is he here?
He's here.
Shane,
Yes,
I
yes.
need to talk to him. I've never actually talked to him.
Yeah, it's one of the best
Everybody
coon hunters
says,
that I know, and a very good human being, a good friend of mine. But he's
Another
also just a
guy
very
out
good coon
your
hunter.
way that I'd like to talk to and sit down and talk to, I think, is Zach McBee.
Yes,
I've
that's-
always heard nothing but
yeah.
good about Zach.
Probably one of the hardest hunters I know.
Yeah.
I remember when we left, I went hunting with him here a couple of weeks ago, and he's only about an hour from me. And I wanted to see what Raven was like in the crowd. I called Zach, said, I'm going to come over there. And of course, Zach loaded up, and I had one full can of chew in the back of my pocket. Terrible habit, don't do it. But I had one full, and we were getting ready to leave the house at dark. I told him stop, and I went and grabbed another one. I said, I know what you're like. I said, I don't want to be without.
This
And
is
so-
a 2-can night.
That's right. It might be a 2-can night. You don't know with Zach. And we hunted really hard. We had a great hunt.
That's
He is
good. What's that male dog he hunted a lot? Was it
Hunter.
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 Yep. Yeah.
Probably one of the most talented coon hounds I've ever been. But Zach's big problem, and I've told Zach this, and a lot of people have told Zach this, is he's more addicted to it than the dog is sometimes.
Oh,
And and he'll just hunt them. And hunt. He
hound
can't stop. He can't stop hunting them. And when he gets one he really likes, he's got a 10-month-old pup out of Shifter right now that's a really good dog. And I told him, I said, Zach, you're going to hunt that one to death too. And he goes, I don't know if I can. This is what he said. It's a little more high strung than others.
well, that's it. We lose sight of that these are not machines.
Right.
And they get tired.
Yep. They do. But Zach,
And this would play out in those back in the old days in the World Hunt when we'd start them on Wednesday night and we'd hunt them,
Yes.
hunt all the way through.
And that's what I was going to say about the way Zach hunts is if his dogs have not peaked and have fell down a little bit on them week-long hunts,
Yeah.
say you catch a couple bad breaks in the late round and you got to get them in on Wednesday night
Yeah.
late and then or Thursday night late, his dogs are conditioned and they're ready to roll through all that.
I saw that a lot at Aurora where good dogs that get in early, hunt late, get
Yeah.
peak, come in, and that go through maybe do that all 4 nights
Yeah.
and finally get in on Thursday night, and
Yeah.
then the dog is shot.
Yeah.
That's like my old traveling buddy here, Nubbin Moore. He won this thing overall in the 25th anniversary with a black dog. But then he went to the World Hunt that fall, and he said, my dog was done.
Yeah.
He said he just could not take. He was winning,
Yeah.
but it was just.
It's hard to get through them late rounds. And
Yeah.
I always want to try to get in Monday, Tuesday night. And just for the simple fact of that.
Yeah.
But there's some dogs, you take Venus, for instance, my brother's dog, and Zach Reeves owns her now. She never made a tree until Thursday at the Super States. It was real dry. Rain finally came.
Oh, yeah.
And she got in late round Thursday and won the whole thing. So some dogs it don't bother, but mine it does, and it bothers me too.
Yeah, well, back in the day, when old Ronnie Bone was a hard hunter
Yes.
in his day, and we'd be at Walker Days now, Cesar, Illinois, or somewhere like that, and everybody'd stand around out just talking out of the street light, just BSing, Here's old Bone gets in the truck and he goes, wonder where Bone's going. He's training, man. He'd be back out there and hunt till daylight, training for those late rounds.
Dustin Weed's the same way. Dustin is one of the hardest hunters I know. Bill Murphy he hunts like that a lot. And Zach,
Yeah.
and Lane Denny's a very hard hunter too.
Yeah.
And some
Is
of them
Lane here?
No, Lane's
I
not
usually
here.
see Lane. Well, he's married now.
Yeah, he's
so
married. He was working. I called him. Actually, I had a female come in. Hazel came in. They called me on Wednesday. And I told him, I said, I'm going to bring down and breed her to shot whenever I get home next week. So I did talk to Lane, and he said that he's swamped. He'd love to be here, but, he's at that time in his life where he can't just make all of them,
Yeah. Well, good for him for recognizing that.
Exactly. Steve, if you ain't got anything to add, we'll shut this off. I sure appreciate you sitting down with me.
Oh, man, it's
it.
always fun, Josh. And I really enjoy the stuff you're doing with Cane Stream and
Thank you.
bringing especially for old guys like me, bringing the sport right into. And that Joy Super Hunt and all that stuff, just top drawer, outstanding.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And like you guys can find Steve, Gone to the Dogs podcast under the W. It's in the W podcast.
Yeah.
network.
If you don't, you can find it anywhere you
Yeah.
get your podcast. So if you want a URL, it's just podcast.dusupply.com.
Great. And that's fantastic content. If you guys haven't checked it out, make sure and check it out. Steve, I appreciate you sitting down
Josh.
with me.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you very much.
Have a good time at Autumn Oaks.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
That is Steve Fielder with Gone to the Dogs podcast fame and many others. Of course, the head of Hunt Director for PKC, UKC, you name it. Been around a long time. One of my good friends, and I appreciate him sitting down with us. Thank you guys for joining us. This may wrap up our Autumn Oaks coverage for this week. You guys can get online right now. You can check out the top Grand 16 handler meeting. Lots of good stuff coming there. We got some good stuff coming in at the beginning of the week from Autumn Oaks. The walk around video, it should be on there anytime soon. There's a very good story from Hoop and Tater Franklin on there. You guys want to check that out. It'll be up this afternoon, but we are going to wrap up our Autumn Oaks coverage here with Steve. So, like I said, thanks to him. Thanks to all the listeners, viewers, sponsors, Joy Dog Food, Razor Hunting Gear, Conky's Outdoors, and Elite Nutrition, and especially the Cane Stream members, all the viewers, subscribers. We really appreciate you, and we'll catch you down the road.